Hi there. So yesterday we were talking about free will and how free will is our ability to choose to listen to either voice in our head, either the voice that wants us to become our full potential, the Yetzer Tov, which is from the soul, or the lower self, the more animalistic, selfish self that we all have, which wants to just feel good in the moment. And that's more like the Yetzer Hara, the negative inclination. Why is it negative? Because when I just focus on myself, I don't really develop myself. I'm not living in my full potential. Even though there's nothing wrong with feeling good, we can't do it at the expense of who we're meant to be. And so today we're talking about, so how do I use my free will and really define who I am? How does it all work? So the Talmud says that every single person's life is personally designed for them in all the sorts of tests and experiences that they have. And there's spiritual test after spiritual test that we're put in. We might not even realize we're in a test, but we're in a spiritual test for us to access and utilize our free will in order to choose which voice to listen to, which then defines us a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And the biggest key to all of this is to know that you're in a test, right? Because if I know I'm in a test, I have more likelihood of passing it. So what is the indicator that we are in a spiritual test for us? And the answer is moral conflict. When I am in a tug of war internally for me, part of me really wants to do this, really want it, and another part of me is like, I don't think you should do that. I think this is the right thing to do. And you're really justifying both sides, and you're really in this moral conflict. That's the sign you're in a test. And sometimes we know what the right thing is, but we just really don't want to do it. And other times we don't know, and we have to go and ask a mentor. So we need a mentor as well, right? That's really important. Someone outside of you, objective, who you trust, you can give feedback from. The word for test in Hebrew is nisayon. And nisayon comes from the word nes. Nes means miracle, but it also means something else, flag or banner. And we know in Hebrew when there's two words like this that have the same spelling, they're intrinsically connected. So what's the connection? It turns out when I'm in a test, a nisayon, and I really get through it, it's a nes, it's a miracle that I often make it through these tests. And then when I do successfully, I can become a flag or a banner to the rest of the world in how to get through that test. One of my favorite examples of this is Sheryl Sandberg, where she was catapulted to fame with her book Lean In, and she works for Facebook. She's very famous, and she was talking about work and life and balance and women and all this, and it was great. And at the peak of her fame, at the top of her game with this book, her husband tragically died, literally died one night on the treadmill. And they were on holidays and whatever. And she was obviously, her whole life fell apart. Her whole life fell apart and the whole world was watching because she was famous by then. And what did she do? She rose to the challenge. It was a nes she got through it. She said her whole life was a disaster, fell apart, as anything would with this kind of grief. And what did she do? She ended up becoming a flag or banner to the rest of the world in how to get through grief. So she wrote her next book, Option B, which I highly recommend, which is what happens, what on earth do you do when option A in your life doesn't work out, right? And she became a flag or banner for how to live and become great through that adversity and struggle. And it just was so inspiring. So we too have this opportunity to rise up through our challenges, to build that higher self rather than live from the lower self. And interestingly, the Torah compares us sometimes to olives. Why to olives? Have you ever seen how this beautiful olive oil is extracted from olives? Olives are often crushed, pressed, to press out this beautiful olive oil that was actually used for anointing kings and all sorts of regal things. Why are we compared to olives? Because there's times in life where we are pushed into a position, just like Cheryl was, and we are pushed and squeezed and crushed in a certain way, in a certain position, in a certain hold. And due to that amount of pressure and the amount of squeeze going on, we are forced to dig deep inside and extract a beautiful potential that we never ever knew we would have. And we would never have gone there had we not been pushed and crushed and squeezed in that position at that particular time in our life with exactly that much pressure. And we wouldn't wish it on anyone, and we're so glad it's over, but often looking back you say, wow, I found some greatness in myself then. I didn't know I could get through something like that. And so we're compared to olives because it's often through the adversity that we find our greatest potential and that we can become our greatest self. Stay tuned.